Am I the asshole for confirming that I wished my stepmom died in a car accident? For some background, my dad cheated on my mom with my stepmom. They ultimately got divorced, which was really hard on our family. My mom ended up moving back to her home country in Europe. My twin sister and I had to stay with our dad. I, 17F, live with my dad, my stepmom, and my younger brothers. Last year in September, my twin sister and I had a volleyball game at school. My dad was usually the one who picked us up from our games and practices, but he couldn't that night. My dad was out of town, so our stepmom had to come pick us up. She arrived an hour late because she took a nap and forgot about us. As soon as we got in the car, she started going on a rant about how we disturbed her nap. Long story short, she ran a stop sign at an intersection. We got into a horrible accident. Most of that night was a blur, but I remember the last few minutes before the crash. I was hospitalized for weeks, but my twin sister passed away that night. I can't describe how I feel. I lost my best friend who I shared everything with. My sister knew exactly how I felt about everything because we experienced life together. Now, I constantly feel like I'm a zombie. I'm not suicidal, but I often imagine/think about ending my own life because living is unbearable without my sister. Well, last night, my stepmom made a special dinner for her birthday. After the accident, I stopped eating dinner with the rest of my family. It just feels wrong eating without my sister at the table, so I eat alone in my room. Well, my dad insisted I eat with them downstairs. I protested, but he begged me. Dinner started off normally. My stepmom announced to my brothers, 8M, 5M, and I that she was pregnant. My brothers were really happy and asked for the gender of the baby. My stepmom excitedly said that it was a girl. My brothers kept talking about they were excited about getting a younger sister. My stepmom mentioned how they could help decorate her nursery. I looked up and asked her which room would be the nursery. She excitedly said that she was going to use my twin sister's room. She mentioned how she already started removing things from her room in the morning and putting them in the attic. I asked her why she didn't bother telling me before she went ahead and started moving my sister's stuff. It was a big deal to me because aside from me, no one has been in her room since she's passed. Sometimes when I miss her, I sit in her room to feel closer to her. And some nights, I fall asleep in her room. My stepmom got really defensive. She said that I needed to accept that she was having a baby and needed the empty room. I told her that I understood that she was pregnant, but a heads up would have been nice before she started removing things from my sister's room. She looked at me and said that she didn't need to tell me anything because she was the mother of the household. She said she was doing what was best for the interest of her baby and she didn't need my negativity. I stayed silent trying to tune her out, but I snapped when she mentioned how I needed to accept my sister's death and move on. She said something along the lines of, "Your twin passed away and you need to accept that. It's hard, but you've got your father, your brothers, and I. Plus, you're getting a new sister who you can build an even stronger relationship with. You need to move on because nothing will bring twin sister back." I knew I was getting angry, so I excused myself and left the table. My dad started yelling about how I was being dramatic and I needed to come back or I'd be grounded. I continued walking away until my stepmom said, "I don't understand what her problem is." She couldn't even bother to be happy about my pregnancy, but she's angry about me moving things out of an unoccupied bedroom. I turned around and stared at her in disbelief. My stepmom often acts like twin sister never existed. An example, 2 months ago, I was at Walmart with my dad and stepmom. We were buying a birthday present for my younger brother, and they got into a conversation with the older man. I wasn't paying much attention, but the old man asked my dad how many kids he had. My dad said he had 4 kids, but my stepmom responded saying, "Number 3. She does stuff like that all the time, which drives me insane. I started going off on her, and she sat there quietly. I mentioned how she's been the cause of every major traumatic event in my life. I reminded her that she knowingly started sleeping with a married man. She knew he had a wife and kids, but she didn't care. She broke up my family, sending my mom into a deep depression which ultimately led her to move away. Then I reminded her that she was too preoccupied with ranting about how we disturbed her nap, which ultimately led to a car accident that had me hospitalized for weeks. And I lost my twin sister because of her carelessness. I told her that she had no right to just take things out of my sister's room. And I wasn't angry about her new baby, but the fact that she started boxing and removing stuff from my sister's room without even telling me in advance. Then finally I told her that it was cruel of her to tell me to move on from the traumatic death of my twin sister. She argued back that the accident happened and I was living in the past. She said everything happens for a reason and God works in mysterious ways. I straight up asked her if she thought that my sister's death could not have been avoided. And she responded saying, "It was just unlucky fate." I reminded her that my sister would be alive if she wasn't distracted. My stepmom then told me that I make her feel like I wanted her to die instead. I just stayed silent, and she kept asking me if she was correct. I turned to walk away, and my stepmom grabbed my arm. I asked her to let go, and she kept saying, "You want me dead, don't you?" I stayed silent again, but she kept repeating it. I eventually got mad and truthfully told her that my life would have been easier that way. She started crying and my dad called me heartless. I did apologize a few minutes later, but my dad snapped and asked me leave my stepmom alone. Since then, my dad has been giving me the silent treatment while my stepmom just avoids me. Story 2. My husband is mad that I refused to give my stepdaughter cash gift after graduating from high school, like I did with my stepson and later with my daughter. I'm a 43-years-old woman. I have one daughter, 18. Her father left us when I was pregnant with her. I own a small company in interior design, and it's very successful in my country. I make a very good living. I met my husband 55, about 8 years ago. He moved in with me 7 years ago, and we got married 2 years ago in a private ceremony. My husband has 2 children from a previous marriage, boy 20 and a girl 19. Both my stepchildren hated me and my daughter in the beginning of the relationship. When my husband asked them how they'd feel about him moving together with me, they both initially hated the idea and told him that if he did it, they would just stay permanently with their mother. After a while, my husband moved in anyway and said to them that they were welcome should they change their mind. They did, after seeing the big house with the pool and all great accommodations. The boys started liking us gradually, and we're on great terms now. The daughter, not so much. She was horrible to me and my daughter, and one day, when she was 13 to 14, I heard her making fun of my daughter's weight and looks to her face. I was livid. I have suffered ED growing up because of bullying, so I knew how dangerous that was. I knew how my daughter must have felt, so I told my husband that stepdaughter was never allowed to live in my house again. My stepdaughter tried to apologize and she was sobbing, but I didn't budge. I had too long of an experience with bullies that I knew it just got worse when they got confronted and had to apologize, and I wasn't going to take the risk. So she moved permanently with her mother. My initial plan was to break up actually, but this was my husband's idea. She still bullied my daughter in school. They didn't go to the same high school, but my stepdaughter had friends in my daughter's class that did her bidding. I found about all of this about a year ago. My daughter was embarrassed to tell us, and she thought she could manage her bullies. It broke my heart, and I felt so guilty that my baby didn't dare to confide in me. Uni is free in my country. Students often take student loans, with almost zero interests, and work part-time jobs while studying to make ends meet, but the education is free. When my stepson started uni, however, I gave him 100,000 euros so he didn't have to work or anything and just concentrate on his studies, engineering. He was so grateful but told us that he wasn't sure he could be trusted with a large sum, so my husband is handling his money, making monthly payments. I am planning to do the same with my daughter. Stepdaughter graduated with great marks, and she's started medical school this year. She asked her father about her 100K, and he came to ask me. I was confused because before I gifted my stepson, I asked my husband if I could do it, and the reason was because I wasn't planning on doing the same thing with my stepdaughter. He told me I could do what I wanted, and it wasn't weird at all because my stepson and I had a great relationship, and he always saw me as a second mom. He got really mad and told me that my stepdaughter had changed a lot, but it wasn't true at all. Although she wasn't living with us anymore, she made sure to make our lives a living hell every time she visited, and even got physical with my daughter. If she started playing nice now, it was only because there was money involved, and I knew that, and my husband knew that too. I even told him that she called my that bitch, and even in the phone my number was saved under that bitch. He is now very angry. He hasn't talked to me in over a week. He's saying I'm using my money to control their lives and that he's heartbroken. If I don't have enough money for both daughters, I can split my daughter's share between them, since my daughter isn't even sure she wants to start college right away, and let's face it, she will likely never get into med school. His words, maybe if I did it, stepdaughter would be more grateful and be closer to my daughter. I don't know what to do. I feel like I don't owe my stepdaughter anything. My daughter and I have suffered enough because of her ways. She could still do like the rest of her peers. Work and take loans, and she has a bright future ahead of her. There maybe be some truth in his words about me using my money as a reward/punishment. I am ashamed but still defiant. I should do what I want with my money,